I never anticipated this video taking as long as it did, but thank you for being patient.
Maybe that's what blinded us to how ugly the people were getting. Good day to you, brother.
You don't understand. No one took these groups seriously.
They were different. Religious. Militant. It was a goddamn cult.
Collapse is upon us.
Far Cry 5, Religion, Cults, Religious Cults, and Cheeseburger. A game with a mixed reputation when it was first released in 2018. Why was the game disliked? Some say due to the story and its progression, others say it's due to Ubisoft and their terrible third-party launcher, which is perfectly fair. If you are able to look past the never-ending list of issues that Ubisoft has created within its community, Far Cry 5 is one of the greatest open-world games to play and results in a very rewarding experience. It's not often that games of today are able to immerse you in an experience you are unfamiliar with. Far Cry 5 brings you to the US state of Montana, which has about 5 residents to begin with, in a fictional area by the name of Hope County. You play as a junior deputy sheriff attempting to fight a cult and take out a largely wanted target. You are accompanied by a few other deputies in your mission when things go south and the helicopter you try to leave in crashes. Throughout the game, you work to take out members of the Seed family, working your way up to the leader of the cult, Joseph Seed. The story isn't particularly special, it mostly follows the Far Cry formula seen in previous games, but there is more to the game than just the story. In the previous games, you are in a foreign country or a random island of the sort, but this time you're in a place that seems so normal, but is one of the most dangerous locations yet. I've put a good bit of hours into the game, and yet every time I boot it up I find myself immersed in Hope County as if it was the very first time I played the game. I won't be focusing as much on the story in this video, as it is actually quite repetitive and uneventful until the very end of the game. The constant kidnapping and getting taken from bunker to bunker, freeing your fellow deputies, gets old kinda quick. Instead, I want to turn your attention to how much of a difference a well-crafted environment can actually make in a game, specifically this one. Today we're going to be looking at why this game, in my opinion, is a one-of-a-kind experience that I recommend trying at least once. The environment in Far Cry 5 lives and breathes. No matter where you go on the map, something is always happening. NPCs interact, the roads have cars, animals will fight people and sometimes each other. The natural environment doesn't feel fabricated or fake. I have never been to Montana, but I believe the depiction Far Cry 5 presents is relatively accurate to what the Northwest is like in certain parts. I'm all the way on this side over here, so I could be entirely wrong about this one. When you explore parts of the countryside, you will find a plethora of characters trying to adjust and survive over the cult that has taken over their beloved home. You can hire these same characters to aid you in battle to try and take over some outposts and destroy anything the cult has to take back their land. After completing the tutorial, you aren't forced to a certain direction. You have complete freedom to explore whichever region you choose first. There are 3 regions you are able to choose from. You have a wide variety of weapons, both melee and ranged, that you can purchase or find to fight the enemies. At no point in time did I feel like I was running out of options, especially after acquiring certain DLC weapons. There are plenty of individual modifications for each weapon that you end up using in your main playthrough. The world is dynamic. The day and night cycles both bring danger, with safety only being an option at the places that you've liberated. The dense forests, the large rivers, and the beautiful farmland that spans across each and every region. Each individual region possesses a certain charm, whether it's the mountains, the farms, or the rivers. Everywhere you look, there's a beautiful sight amongst the chaos that the Seed family has brought to Hope County. The storytelling of each major location can be told just by observing. You don't have to pay a whole lot of attention to the main quest to understand what you're fighting for, or rather, against. There are propaganda posters, shrines, farms that have been overrun. Hope County is in shambles, and it's up to you to bring peace back to the valley that was once quiet. Let's take a second to talk about the music. One of the most beautiful, well-crafted soundtracks lie within Far Cry 5. The moment you launch the game and get past the terrible Ubisoft overlay, you are greeted with a title theme to immediately immerse you. Atmospheric, subtle, and never too in your face, the soundtrack tells a story of its own with each song that can be heard throughout the game. Now, despite all of the praise I have given the game so far, it's not without its criticisms. I previously mentioned a living and breathing environment, but Ubisoft could have gone further to create a true masterpiece. One of the big complaints in comparison to previous editions is the lack of destruction you can cause in places like the forest or even certain buildings. Far Cry 5 does have a day and night cycle, but weather simply doesn't exist. There's no overcast, rain, snow, or anything. One user on Steam pointed out that this is particularly strange due to the Far Cry 5 arcade, a place where you can make custom levels, including the option to change the weather. In addition to the weather system, the stealth system, if that's what you want to call it, is completely unpolished and lackluster. On occasion, you will also have to factory reset some NPCs due to them never leaving the state of fear once all enemies are gone. Upon playing the game again, sometimes the map feels void of locations to do things in. When I played the game in the past, I felt like I was never going to run out of options at any point. You can drive on a road for minutes without finding something to do at times. If you aren't consistently doing story missions, you might get bored pretty quickly. If you're looking for a lengthy game with satisfying exploration, then Far Cry 5 is a great game to play. It helps if you aren't a diehard fan of the series, as it can be a different formula than the nostalgic players are used to, and sometimes they find it rather unsatisfying. Many of the negative points you can find on Steam reviews come due to the terrible optimization, or some accounts, in rare cases, just getting deleted. It is important to mention that Far Cry 5 had the exception of getting a sequel due to the explosive ending of the previous game. Far Cry New Dawn was released not even a full year after Far Cry 5 came out. The most upsetting part is that New Dawn almost shows up Far Cry 5 in certain gameplay aspects. Far Cry 5 had a 4-year gap from Far Cry 4, but Far Cry New Dawn didn't even take a full year to be released. There were plenty of corners that were cut to make this game happen so soon, but there are a ton of cool features that should have been in the main game to begin with. One thing for sure is that they did put a heavy focus on the new combat aspects. There wasn't really anything innovative about Far Cry 5's combat per se, but it was enjoyable with how basic it was, and wasn't too difficult to learn. New Dawn presents an entire crafting system that has tiers that you can unlock as you play. They really wanted to make sure you were exploring and scavenging the map, as you can't make weapons without scavenging. I mentioned the soundtrack in Far Cry 5 perfectly reflecting the theme. In New Dawn, they definitely didn't let up. If you enjoy the faster pace, in-your-face music similar to that of Cyberpunk 2077, New Dawn has some good tracks for you. Maybe it's not as fast and crazy as Cyberpunk's music, but there are some really good tracks on the soundtrack that I recommend giving a listen to, or just hearing when you play the game. The main antagonists are a pair of sisters who terrorize Hope County with their group of raiders, which is kind of basic, but we do actually see the return of a reborn Joseph Seed post Far Cry 5. Release me! Aside from some new mechanics, weapons, and a large rehaul of the original map that we saw in the 5th game, the game's price tag is enough to turn people away. As of this video, they're asking for $40 US for a game half as big as Far Cry 5, which is $60 US. I believe I share the same sentiment as others when I say that this game could have and should have been a DLC. As if charging $40 for this glorified DLC wasn't already bad enough, they had taken the pre-order bonus that they were offering for anyone who pre-ordered New Dawn and released it not that long after the game actually came out. It doesn't matter what genre or what game it is, charging $10 for something that was promised to be exclusive to players who ordered the game early is always crazy. I feel like I'm forgetting something important. Maybe it's not important. There's also fishing and hunting. I didn't mention it until now because you can get through the entirety of both of these games without even realizing it's a feature they put a little bit of a time into, but I guess it's there. It's cool. Fish. In an era of gaming where the future is primarily the setting for some, Far Cry 5 stands out as a game in a modern setting, proving that it can be just as good. If you find this game on any kind of sale, I do highly recommend grabbing it and at least giving it a try. Nowadays, the sales are usually upwards of 90%, so you really aren't losing much if you don't enjoy it. If you have a friend to play it with, multiplayer provides an even better experience, and if you aren't a big fan of the story stuff, then that's the way to go. As always, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this, then please do consider subscribing to keep up with these commentaries and random thoughts that I spew.
Excuse me.
Too close to the road!